Hello, I'm Ron Baker. Welcome to Empowered at Last. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you today. The topic today is be willing to have a conversation. It is so important that we all learn by practice how to set ourselves up well to have conversations with each other. We are here learning together, potentially. If we are willing to show up self-aware, aware of what is not working, aware of what we're challenged by, aware of what is frustrating us within the dynamics of our lives, and we're willing to show up and have a healthy conversation, it is amazing how much trust we will build, how much growth we will instigate, and how much more fulfillment we will create in our relationships. So often, people are ruled by fear, shame, and judgment. And they don't feel safe to bring stuff up in conversation that is not working well. Things that they need to work on themselves, things that somebody else is practicing that triggers. How in the world do we have a healthy conversation? The first thing I would say is get in touch with you. When something is not going well, when you are not pleased with the dynamic in one of your relationships, tune into you. What is this event, this pattern, this behavior? What is it showing me about me, first of all? So, as an example, let's choose a relationship where I'm always the one who has to reach out. No one reaches out to me. Or let's choose, you're always teasing me and it doesn't feel good. Or let's choose, you tend to show up to everything that we say late, or you cancel at the last minute. These are some things that might be frustrating in your relationships. If you do not have willingness to have a conversation, it's not going to magically go away. We make all kinds of assumptions and projections on our relationships. But if we can get in touch with self first, even aware that we're irritated or sad or confused or whatever the wounded feeling might be, let's first get in touch with self. What is this showing me about me? Oh, the teasing thing as an example. I realized that I was teased a lot by one of my parents, by one of my siblings, and no one ever interrupted it or championed me. I have a wound about that, and I need to look and nurture myself within that. I need some adult, deeper truths about teasing, and then I need to be willing to have a conversation with someone else. Or, let's go to one of the other examples. Let's say that someone is always late or cancels at the last minute. What is that bringing up for me? Oh, I realize that I got a lot of empty promises from one of my parents growing up. They said we would do this, and then it would just disappear. They said that we would do this, but something else was always more important. They said that we would do this, and then they were always late. Even to pick me up from the event, they were always late. Bottom line, if you discover what your challenge is and that it comes out of your own history, and that you have wounded feelings of not feeling important or feeling unsafe to show up and be authentic because maybe you'll get teased or criticized within these two examples, then there are definite things you can do to nurture yourself. This subject happens to be about be willing to have a conversation. Have that conversation with your own inner child. There are plenty of tools at ronbaker.net for doing just that. As a matter of fact, there is a free gift at the homepage of ronbaker.net that allows you to get a couple of free guided meditations where I take you inside and teach you how to develop a more nurturing relationship with your inner child self. So now, once you've identified what your history is a little bit with either teasing or people not showing up late, canceling, we need to go and have a conversation with someone else. The wound would show up and say, you know what? You always do this. You never do that. And go right into a blame mode. If you do this, you will not have a really successful conversation compared to what you will inspire with just a couple of adjustments and clues. If you go to another person who matters enough to you to have this conversation and you say, there's something I have noticed that sometimes takes place. Hear the word sometimes takes place. Can we have a talk? Can we explore this? Asking permission rather than jumping right in, particularly if you're going to blame and accuse. Asking permission if this is a good time, and the person might say, sure, we can do it, but can we do it tomorrow or later tonight? Wonderful. Have a negotiation. But ask permission and then share about you, not them. Don't share what they're doing as wrong and bad. This will not serve you. If you will go and say some version of this, I notice that sometimes I get triggered in our back and forth. I've looked at it and I realize it comes out of my history, where I was always teased by my sibling or my parent, where I was always criticized and I just didn't feel safe. So now, in addition to claiming and sharing about you, now we're going to give the other person a lot of padding, a lot of space of safety for considering this. I imagine that it is not remotely your intention to criticize or belittle or tease me. I just want you to be aware that I'm looking at this right now and you matter to me. If you wouldn't mind paying attention when you're teasing, excuse me, it would really mean the world to me. So what did I just do? I took responsibility that it's my wound, my history, and I care about you enough to have this conversation. Would you please work with me? Because sometimes when this happens, even though I'm sure it's not your intention, it feels this way, and it would mean the world to me if you would make an adjustment. Tell them what you prefer if you have some alternatives. Instead of teasing me, share with me what you're learning about this particular thing. Instead of criticizing me, even if I need a learning curve to get better at something, approach it so that you share with me about what you're learning. Do you see how in all of this, you're honoring the other person, you're honoring yourself, you're clear what the wound is in you, and then you set it up really well. You inspire them, you honor them, you value them, you let them know they matter to you. This will set you up so much better than acting out, retaliating, going for vindication. If you've hurt me, then I'm going to hurt you at least as bad. The wound does all these things from time to time. So people tend to be afraid to have these conversations, to instigate these conversations. Why? Let me look back at myself first. Oh, no one really did this with me growing up. No one really came to me with healthy approaches, asking for help to resolve the conflicts, misunderstandings, etc. And so, the one time I tried it, all kinds of things from your history might be present. But if you ask permission, they've opened the door. If you take responsibility and then honor and value them, and then ask for their feedback if you're ready. What is your impression about this when it takes place? Be prepared that you're the one who's put this on the table. People might feel a little threatened by having the conversation themselves. Keep in mind you're learning together. Keep in mind that you're the one who wants to take it to a new level, so hold a space for the person to even be slightly defensive. It was never my intention, and I didn't mean to, and no. If they need to get all that out, or go, well, you sometimes tease me, people will often turn the table when they don't feel safe. Are you willing to feel safe to go, yes, I'm going to watch it from my end as well. I'm going to make this adjustment. And I was just thinking, because our friendship means a great deal to me, if we can both be aware of this. And let's talk about it as we go. Let's point it out in very tender, gentle ways. So this is the subject for today. Be willing to have a conversation that sets you up well, that gives an opportunity, and even if the other person is not ready or willing to see the point you've made, you've planted a seed. Maybe a week or a month from now, they'll notice what you've pointed out, and they'll be ready to say, oh, I get it. Sometimes I do that. Plant the seeds. Be proud of yourself for being willing to speak up, to help yourself, to champion yourself, to set up the possibility for improvements and enhancements. That is the subject for today. I close with choose well, such as everything we just talked about. Choose well, live fully, and by all means, be good to you. Have a great week.